Today, we're welcoming Craig Kittner. Now, Craig and I have a lot of virtual conversations, but today I'm really pleased to introduce him to all of you so we can have one of our virtual conversations in front of you all. Could be embarrassing, but let's see how it goes. Welcome, Craig. Over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to explore this rather tricky subject. I hope we can do it justice, and I hope we can spark some novel thoughts, among the community.
I hope so too.
So let me begin by sharing a little something from, it was kind of a start of a turning point for me. A little over a year ago, I attended my first Haiku North America conference. And I was at the opening reception for it. And I always feel a little shy, in a gathering there where I don't know anybody. Because, I'd met some of these people, virtually, as you say, but had never been face to face with any of them. But I saw a table with a couple empty seats, and I decided to sit down and see if I could join in whatever conversation was going on. And within seconds of me sitting down, somebody just blurted out, "Well, I just don't see how tundra can be considered a haiku." And from that, a lively debate started at the table, and I joined in and immediately felt I'm at home. I'm with my kind of people.
Yeah.
And I know you explored this well-known one-image haiku during your first series of the podcast, but I'd like to take up the subject again, a little briefly here. And now, for any listeners who don't know, Tundra is a haiku by Cor van den Heuvel. It appears in his book, The Window Washer's Pail, which was published in 1963, and it was a self-published book. And it's actually available at the Digital Library of the Haiku Foundation, and I'm sure we could get the link up on the show notes.
Oh, yeah.
So the haiku is the word tundra, just that, all alone on a page. And it's about 3/4 of the way down on the page, actually. So. And if you are familiar with it, I'd like you to try to remember how you responded to it when you first saw it. Now, for myself, I had heard about it before I actually saw it in a publication, so my reaction was a little tainted. Kind of like a movie that you hear a little bit too much about and then you go to see it. Never quite that pure experience again. But when I think about it, I can see how it could be easily dismissed. For instance, you could take the stance that a one word cannot be a haiku, or you could label it, as silly or pretentious, and then you don't have to spare it any thought. And Patricia, that's really why I wanted to be involved in this discussion about pretension in haiku, because when you raised that specter back in episode 14, it got my back up a little bit.
I know. I read that, or I knew you were going to say that, and I thought, oh no. Sorry. Let me apologize. Didn't mean to do it. Carry on.
No problem. But, I've been engaged in arts forms of several types throughout my life. And usually when someone uses a word like pretentious, I see it as they're generally trying to write off whatever they're dealing with, so they don't have to deal with it. They just label it, and then I don't have to think about it anymore. And fairly often, things that are labeled like that actually turned out to be the innovative and groundbreaking kind of work. And to put it in the kind of perspective I'd like to look at it in, if you write haiku, when you read haiku, you're inevitably going to come up to some pieces that are just problematic for you. They might sound wrong to your ear, or you might think they're too simple or too complex, or they don't fit in your definition of what a haiku is, or you simply don't understand them. And the question is, how do you respond to that? And that actually, to me, begs the question of, why are you reading haiku in the first place? Now, if you're reading it for pleasure, okay, problematic ones, you just skip over them, you find the ones you like, and you just enjoy your reading. Nope. But perhaps maybe you're reading it to see how your haiku stack up against other haiku. And if you're doing that, then you might be tempted again to label the problematic ones as bad or not really haiku, or yes, even pretentious. And you might then get a little feeling of smugness about your own work. And And at that point, you might want to consider re-examining your priorities. Just saying. But if you're reading as a true dyed-in-the-wool writer, you're going to dismantle any problematic haiku and see what makes it tick.
Yeah.
You know, if it's bad, what's ruining it? If it's not a haiku, why isn't it a haiku? And if it's pretentious, what makes it pretentious? And you're going to do that because of a love for the craft, and you want to better understand it, because that makes you a better writer. So, to give a couple of anecdotes, you know, when I was younger, I was more involved in as a visual artist.
Yeah.
And when I see a painting I don't like, I can tell you exactly why I don't like it in minute detail. Or another example, my wife, she's an accomplished chef. And when we're out at a restaurant, if she gets a meal that doesn't meet her expectations, I get to hear everything what the kitchen did and how they got it wrong.
Yeah,
It's
actually,
uncanny.
it is, but rang, that example rang a bell with me because I used to work in hotels,
Ah,
and so we've got to the point where my poor husband's like, "Oh, do we have to stay in a hotel, please? No, just no," because I like your wife and her meal. I'm dissecting. You know, they did that wrong. They did this. I can't enjoy it. You know, it's
right.
horrible. But anyway, sorry, didn't mean to
Oh,
interrupt.
no
Carry
problem.
on.
No problem. It's actually like my day job is I'm a customer service manager.
Mhm.
And so, you know, if I get bad customer service again,
Ooh.
it's like I want to tell them exactly where they should do it. But see, you know, but that's what true dedication to some craft gives you. It gives you a discerning eye or a discerning palate, or in our case, a discerning ear.
Mm, yeah.
And the funny thing is, sometimes when you start to pick apart a work that's problematic, you uncover something that makes it really sing, you know, and things click and you realize it actually does work. And those awkward brushstrokes in a painting, maybe that actually gives the work a raw power, or an unusual flavor in a dish might actually end up being enticing.
Yep.
Or that one word on the page actually unlocks a whole world of associations. So, you know, as I said in the beginning, Haiku North America, it gave me a turning point. And the reason I say that is, you know, I went to that conference thinking I had a pretty good grasp of what haiku was, you know, and I actually even had my own little definition of haiku that I was inordinately proud of at the time. And
Are you going to share it with us?
oh, you know what?
Too embarrassing. Okay,
It's
move on.
actually no, it's not too bad, but it's been incorporated to every. You know, actually, a lot of
Mhm.
times when I talk, you know, we've talked before about how. To me, you know, one of the most important things is that transmission of experience.
Mhm.
And so it had something to do with haiku is, you know, the presentation of an experience without interpretation, something along those lines. But you know, spending all that time with all these other haikuists and just like really getting into the essence of what haiku is, it really convinced me that there is no all-encompassing static definition for haiku. It's it's a living, breathing art form,
Mhm.
and like all living things, it evolves in response to changes in its environment.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, when new technologies come along, or we have new understandings of nature, or there's new social and political forces, or new writers and new writers from other cultures get involved in English language haiku, and new pandemics arise. All these things cause haiku itself to change and evolve.
Yeah.
So when I look at Tundra now, and it excites me, you know, it's like looking at history, and
Yeah.
you can love it, you can hate it, you can dismiss it. That really doesn't matter because it's part of the living essence of what haiku is. And it undeniably had an impact on how haiku has evolved over 57 years since it came out.
Wow, 57. Okay.
So, you know, to get back to the question of pretension, um, you know, we could look at it like as readers, and we could find examples in recent publications of where we think pretension is sneaking in. But I really don't think that's in keeping with the nature of what this podcast is about. I
Mm-hmm.
think we should look at it like writers and ask ourselves not how do we respond when we see it in the work of other people, but how do we handle it if it crops up in our own work.
Yeah.